Good morning, everybody, and a big warm welcome to you all. Welcome to Student Hub Live. My name's Karen Foley, and I'm a lecturer at the OU. And here I am in sunny Pembrokeshire, broadcasting from my home with my lovely dogs in the background, who are hopefully going to be very well behaved, to you guys who are all over the shop. And it's great to see so many of you here. We've been looking at all of the contributions on our map so far that you've been filling in. And if you've just joined, please do take a look at all the activities we've got lined up for you. We'd like to know where you are and how you're feeling and what level you're studying, etc. Now, many of you are new students, and this is the first of our really exciting Freshers Week, where we're going to show you around the university, introduce you to some great people, but most importantly, offer you the space to talk to other students who you're going to meet in your OU journey. Now, this is an online interactive event, and we'd like to encourage you to talk to each other as much as possible, ask any questions to my guests today, and make sure that you go away feeling a lot more confident and happy and connected than you did when you came. Now, manning our hot desk today, we have the lovely HJ, an OU student and Student Hub Live regular. HJ, welcome. How is everybody today? And can you tell us what's going down in the chat?
We're doing fantastic today, and it's great to see everyone joining in the chat. There's loads of new people, which is what we like to see, and loads of experienced students as well. And I know we've been swapping some tips and advice this morning as well. We've got people studying all sorts of interesting and fabulous courses, from data science, psychology, business and management, law, society, literature, and primary education, which is absolutely fantastic. And it seems like we've coming from absolutely everywhere. We've got Melanie from Qatar, Constantina from Glasgow, Melissa from Cheshire, and Harrod from North Wales, and Dorian's writing from Cape Town, which is fantastic to see. So do join in. Let us know what you're studying and where you're hailing from as well. And if you've been here before, you know, but if you're one of our fabulous new people joining, anything goes in the chat. This is a space for you to talk about anything you would like to, and let our fabulous guests know any thoughts, comments, or questions that you have as well. One thing a lot of people have picked up on, which is amazing, but it is hard to keep up with the chat when we're this busy. So there's a little pin button on the top right in red that you see. And if you click that, it means that you can easily scroll through the chat at your own pace and keep up with what's happening there. So join in the chat or just sit back and enjoy. But we're going to have an absolutely fabulous day today.
Absolutely, HJ. And the thing with induction is there's so much information, especially since the majority of you are new students. I bet you've got loads of questions, but don't worry. Every day this week, we've got some space for you to join us at our studio, find out some more, ask those questions. And don't worry if you forget something. Don't worry if you miss things. This will all be recorded. Well, the video is, so you can watch it again on catch up also. I see we've also got Julia joining us from Budapest, who gets a special mention because Julia is on holiday. So that is super dedication. And let's take a look at our map that you guys have been filling in. You can see here that we've got people from everywhere all over the place. So do add to that if you haven't already. But it's lovely to know how many OU students are here. Now, I also hear that Bethany, Jessica, and Emily are terrified, which I must say is completely normal. And by the end of hopefully today's show, but certainly the end of this week, we're hoping that you feel a lot less anxious and nervous. We'll show you around this afternoon. I've got some special guests, but this morning I've got some wonderful people to introduce you to and to hear their stories as well. Just one quick mention on those word clouds, because I'd love you to fill those in. There's something that we need 3 of, okay? So there are 3 boxes in there. So we ask how you're feeling right now. You might only think of 1 or 2 things, that's fine. But just put a full stop or a cross in the box. And when you fill those in, it will all populate on your screen at home so you can see what everyone else thinks also. So do have a go at that too. Right, well, I've got some wonderful guests, but first, let me introduce you to neurobiologist and our Deputy Vice-Chancellor, Josie Fraser, who's only able to be with us for a short time, but it's very important to her to welcome all of our new students. So hi, Josie, how are you? And I hear that you're in Walton Hall on campus pretty much on your own.
I am indeed. Thank you so much, Karen. It's great to be here and a really warm welcome to everybody. It's fantastic to be a part of Freshers Week. I really appreciate you giving me the chance to come and say hello. Campus is quiet. We've got some PhD students and some colleagues around, but it's lovely to be to be in and on campus, and I wish we could give you all a tour, because you might be surprised to realise when you study so much from home that you've got such a beautiful, or we've got such a beautiful campus at the heart of the OU. But hopefully some of you at some point in your studies might get the chance to come and see it for yourselves.
Absolutely, Josie. And we've got some campus tour videos we'll be sure to play throughout our programme this week, so we can show you some of the wonderful, beautiful buildings on campus also. Now, Josie, we've got loads of new students here who are very excited, very nervous. In fact, the OU is absolutely blooming in the current climate. So I wonder if you could sort of tell our students out there why it's such an exciting time right now to be studying with the Open University.
So I'd like to think it's always an exciting time to be an OU student, and I hope you'll all agree with that as you work your way through your studies. For me, it's particularly exciting at the moment because the rest of the world is waking up to just how fantastic a really good online and distance learning experience can be. And the OU's at the forefront of that and has been for the last 50 years. So we've always done distance learning. We really understand it. We know how to support you, how to give you fantastic materials so that you can get to grips with your learning. And that, I think, makes the OU a really fabulous choice right now. I think the other thing that's really helpful for students to understand is just how well regarded the OU is. So we've had a lot of surveys of employers who really rate it. They understand just what you're committing to. They understand that you're someone who may be raising a family, working, dealing with, a complicated life, and maintaining that self-motivation and dedication to study and to work and study at the same time for many of our students is something that employers value. I also feel that you might not realise just how special OU students are in terms of our reputation and what our students bring. So we had a survey recently in the last couple of years where the LinkedIn profiles of chief executives and managing directors were surveyed to see where they'd gone to university. And the OU actually beats Oxford and Cambridge out of all of the UK universities as having the most graduates who go out and really make things happen. So we've got some fantastic alumni, people who've worked and studied with us and then gone on to do amazing things. And I hope you'll have an equally inspiring journey as you go through your studies.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you, Josie. It is, isn't it? It's all of those things that sometimes I think as OU students, we forget we're learning, things like time management and, keeping focused and keeping going on. Those are such important things in the workplace. And yet very often we think we're just struggling through by the skin of our teeth and forgetting that actually those juggles and struggles are all part of that learning journey, and they do make OU students so much more valuable to employers. The one other thing I wanted to ask you about is that, very often I think students are focused on their modules. We see students coming here doing psychology, criminology, etc. And those modules, our websites, our books, they're sort of what we really focus on. And we all know that OU students often, as you've just mentioned, are juggling all these things going on. But the one thing, aside from that module, that I think is so great about the OU is that it's more than just these courses and books and qualifications that students are on. It's a massive organisation. And I've heard from students that when they start watching TV and see that little OU logo at the end of things, or see someone on a train with, an OU hoodie on, they feel so much more connected, and it opens up their eyes in ways that they just weren't aware of. So can you tell us a little bit about some of the other things that the OU are doing, some of the partnerships and connections that we've got that make it more than just a university that delivers courses?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, it's almost difficult to know where to start. We could probably talk all day about this, but our partnership with the BBC has to be right up there at the top of the list for me. The fact that we have got honorary graduates, people like David Attenborough, Brian Cox, people that are broadcasting and educating the world about really important science, politics, all kinds of areas. The work we've done on climate change, for example, all of that comes through our broadcast partnerships. And you might not realize it, but the people who've been writing your learning materials for your new module, as you sort of live in that module world, those are the same people that are being consultants to the BBC on these amazing television programs as part of our mission to not just educate students, but also to educate the wider population. And I think the work we do with the BBC is a fantastic example of that. It's also often inspired by our research. People sometimes think that there isn't a campus and there isn't a group of academics and PhD students, but that absolutely is. We've got academics who live and work at home. We've got academics who live and work on site. We've got student support teams all over the 4 nations of the UK. We've got an amazing group of staff, and a lot of those colleagues are involved in really fantastic and fascinating research, sometimes in partnership with industry, sometimes really blue skies research. And some of those discoveries and investigations are the inspiration for some of the BBC co-productions that we make and the broadcast stuff that we do. If any of you out there are studying maths, you might enjoy one of my favourites, which is our Radio 4 programme that looks into the statistics that underlie recent news stories, more or less. That's a great one. That's always on my list on BBC Sounds. But we've got a whole range of things that I think are really inspiring. And, as you enjoy your OU journey, you might have friends and family members who aren't interested in studying, but are interested in some learning, who might want to know about our OpenLearn website, which is completely free learning resources on all sorts of topics for anybody who's interested at all different levels. My kids spend a bit of time on there when they're stuck with their homework, and that's a great place to go and have a look. We set up the massive open online courses web platform FutureLearn several years ago, where you can find courses from all kinds of universities, all kinds of different companies that have built short courses to develop self-directed learning for people on all kinds of topic areas. And you'll see OU stuff on there as well. And a recent example that I'm really, really proud of is our short course that we are releasing on the FutureLearn platform, which we've built in partnership with Santander, the bank, and they have funded a short course that is a real history of Black culture in the UK and how to become an anti-racist ally. And the OU has always been about opening up education to all people. It's about social justice, it's about equality. And the fact that we have been able to use our expertise, the FutureLearn platform that we founded years ago, as a way to get a course out that can educate and train people anywhere about how to be anti-racist. For me, to have that there made free to all students in all universities around the UK is just an example of the amazing reach that we really have as an organisation. And as you join us, you might not realise, but you're joining over 2 million people who studied with the Open University in 50 years. It's absolutely phenomenal how many people have achieved with us. And I hope you get as much out of studying with us as we get out of working with you and all our other partners.
Brilliant. No, it's super exciting. And some of the colleagues I talked to, I was having a coffee the other day with somebody who's, got a robot on Mars, for example, right now. And, famous people like Alex Danson, the Olympic gold hockey player and things, all studying with the Open University as well. So it's incredible who you meet and who we're joined with. And I think one of the things is it's not only the academics and the researchers in our community, but also the students themselves. Very often I'm teaching and, students will come with these wonderful stories and experiences. And I think that's what makes this Open University such a special place. So Josie, you've got a lot on your plate today and unfortunately you have to leave us. Where are you off to now?
I've got some interesting meetings today. I've got a meeting with our union. I've got meetings with colleagues about our budgets and all sorts of other thrilling stuff, or maybe thrilling for those of you that are studying accounting and finance. I confess it's not my favourite bit of my job, but it's a really important bit of the job, and helps to make sure that you've all got everything you need to succeed with us.
Oh, Josie. Well, someone's got to do it. And thank you for going ahead and looking after everybody. So thank you for coming along also. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you at another event very soon. So that's Josie Fraser, our Deputy Vice-Chancellor. See you soon, Josie. Right, so I hope that's given you a little bit of a flavour about the history and life at the Open University. And lots of you are engaging in our chat and are wanting to connect. Now, this is super excellent. And there are lots and lots of opportunities for you to connect. You can talk to each other, but please don't share personal information in the chat box, because you never know who will turn up outside your house or ring you up in the middle of the night panicking about a TMA. So it's just very important to be safe online. And in fact, this is one of the topics we'll be talking a little bit about later on in today's programme in our next event this afternoon. But for now, if you are interested in connecting with others, there are lots of Facebook and Discord groups. And I think Tala, one of our student Hub Live ambassadors, is in the chat and she can fill you in, as can HJ. And we're also joined by the lovely Natasha, Rachel and Trishana, who are also manning our chat, and they are going to be giving you, as they already have been, lots and lots of useful information. So please do make sure that you ask them all your questions, etc. But let's take a quick trip to HJ. I see we've been talking about some worries. I'm going to show that word cloud a little bit next, but give us a heads up on how everyone's doing, HJ.
We're doing very well. A lot of us are very excited to get started, and we're already planning our first tutorials, which is an amazing chance to speak to our tutors and connect with other students on our modules as well. And a lot of people have been wondering about how they connect after this. Well, the good thing is that this isn't the only event. There's lots of events that we have usually throughout the academic year where you can connect with fellow students. And in this afternoon session, we have Leanne from the Students Association joining us, and they have lots of great opportunities to get social with other students as well. So it's worth popping along to hear more about that, or just head to the Students Association website if you're not here this afternoon. And I know there's been lots of question about these events and what we're supposed to do at these events. The main thing to know is these events are just for you. So you can join in however you'd like. You can sit back and relax and just watch. You can join in the chat. You can do some ironing at the same time and do some multitasking and do some studying at the same time. However it works for you, that's how we want you to join in, because that's what these events for you to get the most out of your university experience, however that suits you. But we're all doing fantastic in the chat, and it's great to hear what people are studying as well. So I know Lee's doing planetary sciences and Sarah's doing teaching as well, and contribute as well. So if you have any thoughts, comments or questions, we've got loads of people in the chat that want to help you, and our fantastic guests want to hear from you as well.
Absolutely. And if there is anything we miss or anything you're super worried about that you don't want to ask in the chat, you can email us. Our email address is studenthub@open.ac.uk, and we'll make sure that we pass your questions on to the right person. Also, if you miss any of this, there's a catch up which will be available shortly after the event. And as HJ said, we've got loads of events, so check out the website. Make sure you get your ticket to the ones, but certainly this afternoon will be really, really helpful as we show you your way around some various important places to this university. Today is an opportunity to really find out about being an OU student and meet other people, because what we know is that being part of a community is really supportive for students. Many students say that they feel so much more nurtured and nourished when they're able to connect with other people. And it's important because when you're studying on your own, you don't need to be lonely or isolated, but just having other students out there, in particular students who may be studying different qualifications or modules or at different levels to you, can be really nice when times do get challenging, or even to celebrate your successes. Well, let me introduce you to my next panel of guests. We're going to be be spending the rest of this discussion with them. I have the lovely Liz Marr, who is our Pro Vice-Chancellor Students, who's responsible for all of the student-facing activities of the university and was an OU student herself, which I'm sure she's going to fill us in about. We've got the lovely Pierce, who is studying computing, and we've got Heidi, who had a very different journey, I think, from the rest of our guests. Heidi started studying and just sort of kept going for quite a long time and is here today to share some of her experiences. So we all bring very, very different things. But let's first take a look, guys, at what people are saying at home, because we've asked people what they're excited about and what they're worried about. And this might be a nice place to start with our guests, is by showing you some of the things that students have said that they're quite worried about right now. So let's see what the key things are. So unsurprisingly, there are things like time and failing, not understanding things, keeping up, exams, deadlines, assignments, time management, and falling behind. So these, I've seen a lot of these before, and in fact, I've worried about a lot of these before. Liz, would you like to comment on any of these things that the students have said?
Yeah, thanks. Good morning, Karen, and good morning, everybody. It's really lovely to be here again. Student Hub Live is my favourite thing at the university. It's what I really enjoy most, getting an opportunity to hear directly from students about what they're experiencing, and what people have just been saying now about what they're worried about. I hear every time, and what I would say is yes, exams can be a bit daunting. Falling behind is very worrying, but actually, your exams are a long way off. So don't start worrying about them now, for goodness sake. And you know, falling behind is a possibility because life always gets in the way, but it's something that we can always help with. So lots of those things that you might be worrying about, I think, yes, you will worry about them, but don't be put off by them, don't be daunted by them, because there's always help available. And you've got all of your fellow students obviously here thinking the same things and worrying about the same things. I've just started worrying about not doing the ironing because you just mentioned that some people were ironing, Karen, so I'm quite bothered about that. But I wasn't sure I'd be able to do this and iron at the same time. So
no, you're not allowed, Liz. You've got to really focus now. So don't worry, you're
thank you.
exempt from the ironing. But isn't it super? Because you mentioned a couple of those things. And Student Hub Live, I was just thinking, oh gosh, we do time management. We do things on understanding the question. We do stuff
Yeah.
around exams. So there's plenty of support out there for students. But yes, these are daunting and important things to worry about. But as you say, you know, it's important to sort of bear with them, I guess, deal with that anxiety and do stuff about it.
Indeed, indeed. And I was thinking about, I know you were going to come to this later, but I'm going to spoil it for you, Karen, and do it now. I was thinking about, the best advice that I had when I first became a university an OU student, which was quite a long time ago. And that advice was, everybody else is feeling the same as you, so don't think you're the only one. And I think that's really, really helpful to remember. And maybe, start tagging along with the ones that say they're really excited, and let some of that excitement rub off on you as well as some of the worries. But I do remember going to a tutorial and the tutor saying, I know all of you are sitting there thinking, I'm not going to say anything because it's going to sound really stupid. Well, somebody's got to, you're not, for one thing, but hey, just get it out the way. And then after that, it'll be fine. So, yeah, try not to worry too much about things. Try and get your thoughts out there. Talk to people, talk to others, talk to your tutors, and you'll soon find that it becomes second nature just to engage in your studies in a successful way.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that we're so hard on ourselves about, perhaps because we're adults, is we think, well, I'm learning, I've learnt before, this should be a doddle. But actually, when we think about it, these are new systems, new processes. Why wouldn't people have all of these questions? If it's not something, if you haven't studied before with the OU, how are you going to know about studying with the OU? You might have some principles that can cross over, but it's really normal and natural to have all of these questions.
Absolutely, absolutely. And like all universities, we like to have our own language with our own acronyms. And sometimes, even joining as a member of staff at the university, you have this long list, a glossary of terms that you have to learn before you can communicate. So it's hard for staff as well as students. but you get used to that language over time. So you will all be talking about TMAs and EMAs and ETMAs at the drop of a hat in the not very distant future. They might sound a bit odd to you now, but you will get really used to it, and you'll be exchanging complicated acronyms with each other before you know it. So
And there are always
yeah,
new ones as well, I find, to throw you off piece just when you think you've got it all sorted.
absolutely, absolutely. But it's the same with any, if you think about the first time, if you can remember the very first day you went to school, how scary that might be, or the very first day that you went to secondary school, even the first day in a new job. All of those things are scary, but you get used to them. You gradually learn about the space that you've moved into and get more and more comfortable. And I think that that big worry about study skills and about the knowing how to do things, as you said, Karen, there's lots of Student Hub Live support sessions to help people with that. There's lots of other sources of help, like the library, for example. But these are things that we learn over time, and they become easier and easier as we learn to become more independent as learners. And that's something that at the Open University we try to do in the way that we design our courses, so that you start off and there's lots of scaffolding and support, but as you develop your own learning capacity, as it were, and learning capability, you start becoming more autonomous, more independent, and being able to manage your learning yourself. So that's part of the journey. It's part of becoming a graduate, if you like, and it's a fantastic part of the journey with the OU, fantastically well supported.
Absolutely. Well, let's hear from Pierce. Pierce, I'd like to ask you a little bit about when you first started your studies, because you didn't have necessarily the best start, which I think is so important, because so many of our students don't always have the best start. So many do as well. And Heidi had a very different journey from you. But can you remember, Pierce, what it was like when you started, and the worries and things that our students have said right now that they're feeling? Do you identify with any of those?
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. I think starting on this journey is such a mixture of excitement and worry and fear and just absolute buzz of what you ultimately find out that you're capable of achieving and capable of doing. Yeah, my journey was certainly not the smoothest. Deferring twice to go to a sort of a bricks and mortar university, and then deferring my first course and my first degree route with the OU certainly led to a rocky start. But each time you do realise that you are capable of things that you don't realise that you're capable of, especially when you finally find the course that's right for you and find the learning that's right for you. For me, it was sort of very daunting to think that I am on my own, and am I going to have enough time to do this? Am I going to be able to fit it around full-time work and that schedule? Am I going to fit it around socializing, seeing my friends, seeing my family? Ultimately, it's all about communication. It's all about talking to other people and making sure that you realize that we're all choosing to do this off of our own back. No one's forcing you to come to the OU. You're doing this because you want to better yourself and you want to achieve something. And no matter what level that achievement threshold is for yourself, it's a fantastic feeling when you get started, and a fantastic feeling to say, yes, you can do this. And even say for me, it took me a couple of years, but now I'm finally on the course I want to be on, and now I'm doing something that I really, really enjoy. All of those worries eventually dissipate, and you meet people that are always in the same boat as you, always feeling in the same situation. But I think it's important to remember that fear, nervousness, that's important. That's it's a human emotion, it's a human response, and it's essential, because if you weren't feeling that, you need to ask yourself why. It's brilliant to have that little bit of fear, because you know that you're pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to do something that's absolutely amazing. So those emotions, to anybody that's feeling or however you're feeling right now, is absolutely fine. And as soon as you're a couple of months down the line, all of that will be a distant memory, and you'll realize how amazing you're getting along with your course.
No, absolutely, absolutely. Those first day nerves, I think, are probably the most excited as we'll ever be in our OU journey, and potentially, unlike just before the exams, is probably the most anxious we all feel. But it is super exciting. It's fab to do something new. Heidi, what
Definitely.
about you then? You started, you sort of kept doing various courses. So for you, it wasn't a sort of end goal in mind. I'm going to do this. You started quite gradually. But do you remember how you felt when you did begin? Those first day nerves. What was it like for you?
Oh, yeah, it absolutely was very nervous for me. I left school with no formal qualifications at all to speak of. And so applying to a university was completely out of my comfort zone. But I wanted to find out if I could do it. So I decided to just start with one module, applied for a level one module, and sort of opened the book nervously and decided to get going. And I think for me, it was about me. It wasn't about showing anybody else what I could do or having to fit in anywhere, but it was more about what exactly do I want to get out of this? And this is for me to sort of study for myself. And that's how I managed to calm my nerves. I think a lot of it was, as Piers said as well, do talk to other people on your course and have a good chat with people because they're bound to be feeling the same as you are. Um, and uh, and within a very short period of time, you're starting to get to grips with how things work, and how the Open University is so unique in how it brings people together. And you think initially that you're just going to be on your own and you're going to be self-studying and there's going to be nobody to support me. But the amount of support this university offers is incredible. And there's always someone at the end of a phone or an email who'll be able to assist you if you do find yourself completely stuck. But certainly for me, it was a complete eye opener that I could do this. The Open University was open to me, even though I didn't have any formal qualifications. Um, and that in itself was an opportunity for me to show, yeah, I think I can do this.
Absolutely. And many of our students don't have formal qualifications, and many of our students have come to us from quite challenging previous educational experiences. Students from all over the world, in fact, we have with the OU. Everyone is very, very different. And that's something we really embrace. And as you say, Heidi, it's something that we really support students with. And this afternoon at 2 o'clock, I've got another session where we're going to introduce you to some key support systems in place for the university. But broadly speaking, I'm sure that our colleagues in the chat will have filled you in that our student support team is the place to go. And you will also have an associate lecturer, a tutor, who is your one-to-one academic contact as well. So between the two of them, if you ask any questions, if you are stuck, they will certainly point you in the right direction, because behind the scenes, and with all Josie's accounting going on, there are so many people here who are there to support everyone in their OU studies. But let's take a look at expectations, because I mean, Heidi, you had different expectations to Pierce, certainly, and probably to Liz as well. But very often students will come to the Open University and many have quite a clear idea about what they'd like to do. Sometimes that can change, but very often I hear students say, I'd like to do psychology or criminology, or I'm going to do planetary sciences, etc. So some students have a very specific goal. And for some of those students, they might feel under quite a lot of pressure to perform very well because, for example, if they want to be a clinical psychologist, they need very high grades to get there. So this notion, I think, of expectations of both ourselves and our grades, and also the university, it's very much a two-way process. And Liz, this is something that you've been working on, is how this arrangement works, because as many people have pointed out today, we're with the OU because we want to be, and nobody's going to study unless we do it ourselves. So there's something there in terms of the student's responsibility. And there's also a responsibility from the university. So can you tell us a little bit about the work you've been doing with the Students Association on our charter, and how this relationship works?
Yeah, so we have a student charter. The university has a student charter which was jointly produced with the Students' Association. In fact, the Students' Association did the last review and rewrote it with the support of colleagues in my team and elsewhere across the university. Have a look for it online. It's quite a concise document. We decided to make it short and sweet because that way people would remember it better. And it says what it says what it needs to really. And the charter is about our expectations of each other. So it's about us as a community, as what you as students can expect from staff, what staff should expect from students, and a lot of it is around I want to say behaviours, but that's kind of not quite the right word. But as we've mentioned a few times this morning so far, we're an incredibly diverse university. I mean, just look at the different experiences of Pierce and Heidi, for example, and talk to any of your other students. We've got students who've got young children. We've got students who've got elderly dependents that caring for. We've got students in work. We've got students volunteering. We've got even students in secure environments, in hospitals. So a very, very diverse range of students, and we are an inclusive organisation. And one of the benefits of being diverse is that it's a learning opportunity. So it's a context in which we can all learn from each other. And so one of the primary things around the student charter is really strengthening and emphasizing that inclusive environment and that respect and dignity that we should all share with each other as a learning community. And I think that's probably the most important in terms of values, how we treat each other, how we behave together. Because if we get that right, then our learning becomes much easier as well. So I guess, what you can expect, what students can expect from us is that we will do our best to provide you with the best learning experience possible, to make sure that you get all the materials you need, to make sure that you get the support that you need, to make sure that the assessment is fair and robust, to make sure that our quality standards are appropriate, so that the award you go out with is the same as equivalent to the award at any other university in the world, not just in the UK. So all of those things are what you can expect from us. And what we expect from you as students is that you commit, that you try, that you engage with us, that you engage with your learning materials, you engage with your fellow students, you engage with your associate lecturer, the academic community, and you try. And you do the assessments, and we know things get in the way. Definitely, we've all got things that happen in our lives that slow us down, or cause us to have to take a break or whatever. You can do that, and we support you to do it, but it's just a question really of making sure that you keep up the communication and stay with us, and so that we can give you the support that you need. So I guess that sounds very grandiose, but I think it's about recognizing that you've joined an inclusive environment, an inclusive community, and not just taking advantage of that, but embracing it and feeling that you are part of that community, and you owe to each other and to your teachers and your associate lecturers the same respect and support that they will offer to you.
Absolutely. And I know that one of the initiatives that student support team colleagues have got going on right now is encouraging students to disclose some of the things that are going on for them. So at the moment, I mean, we have loads of students who are carers. In fact, we have Student Hub live events for those, because it's so very important that we're able to connect together. Also students with disabilities, and things that can happen over time. For example, there may be an instance of depression that may be really, really prolific for some time, but then may go away a little bit later. So things can either be, I guess, temporary or fixed in terms of our lives, but there's so much flexibility and so many people on hand to not only sort of hear about those things, but actually help proactively. I know that Jamie wanted to sort of talk a little bit about how the student support team often work with students. So instead of just saying, oh, you can have an extension, or we might look at this, that, or the other, they actually talk about enabling students so that they can be more proactive in their own learning journey, and take that responsibility and feel in control of that for themselves.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I was thinking particularly about you just mentioned carers, and I know we had a Student Hub Live event for carers not so long ago, and students who are carers, and I was really surprised. Well, I guess I could understand it that people hadn't declared that they were carers because they didn't think it was relevant. And yet there's so much we can do to support people who've got all those calls on their time. Just putting them in touch with other people who are carers or staff who are carers. But what surprised me, but really, really pleased me about that event was the number of people who were students who are carers who actually disclosed to their associate lecturer that they had caring responsibilities for the first time. And of course that helps your associate lecturer understand the challenges that you're going through. But it's not just carers, there's all kinds of life situations that you mentioned, Karen. And we're here to help and to make that the journeys easier. But we can't really do it if you don't tell us about stuff. So if you do tell us, the reason we want to know is not so that we can say, oh, well, you know, that person's a carer, they're not going to have time to spend on their studies. The reason we want to know is so that we can say, these are the things we need to do to support you to make sure that you succeed. So please tell us about your personal circumstances if we ask you. Quite understand if you really, really don't want to, but it can be a big help.
Brilliant. No, absolutely. And in fact, we're planning a special Student Hub Live event in one of our different spaces, which is Adobe Connect, which is where OU students have their tutorials. We're going to be having something for Carers' Rights Day again this November. So do make sure you look at our website and sign up for that. Everybody is welcome to any of these events, but that's specifically about carers. And Tala has just put loads of links into the chat with all sorts of things like student events, buddying, etc., and lots of things like that. Ortney wants to know if you can speed up study from 6 to 4 years. You certainly can. There's a lot around flexible study that you can do with the Open University. And one other thing that I just should mention, before we move on to a little bit more about expectations, is that it's really important that you understand where in the curriculum your grades count. So for many OU students, in fact, I think it's the vast majority, level 1 is your opportunity to learn lots and lots of things. The grades matter at level 2 and certainly at level 3. So level 3 is one area that you know, if you are after a high qualification grade at the end of it, that may be something to think about in terms of your flexible study. But we have a session actually at one of our events for the Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences on flexible study intensity. So if you'd like to find out more about that, please do look at the website and sign up for that. It's the last session within that programme, but you're very welcome to come along and join. Right, Heidi and Piers, let's talk to you about your expectations of yourself. These, again, were both very, very different. Piers, let's start with you. When you sort of started your study, what did you expect of yourself? Did you have an idea about grades in mind? Did you sort of know how you would know if you were doing well?
Well, to be honest, not really in terms of a specific grade. So, as I mentioned, because my start was quite rocky, I just wanted to see if it was something that I could do for me. So, I started off just sort of dipping my toe in the water, finding out where I was when I completed my TMAs, when I completed my EMAs, just finding out how am I doing? Am I doing okay? If I work to this specific level with this amount of timekeeping, putting in this much effort, what is it giving me at the end? And I think from my standpoint, I would much rather have taken the path of not thinking of, yes, I need to get, 80, 90% in the final result, more just saying, am I enjoying this? Is it right for me? If it is, whatever grade I get at the end, I'll be proud of for me. And that's the expectation that I set myself. And I think it's important to remember that however you perform, as long as you're happy with that result, that is the main thing that matters. So making sure that expectation was turned a little bit selfishly and quite inwards of saying, where do I feel and how do I feel? That's how I sort of measured my own progress more than the percentage that I got at the end.
And that's so important because very often we sort of think that having high grades means you might get the best job. But actually, you've been very, very clever because you have a super job alongside your study. And actually, it doesn't really matter what grades you get because your employees just think you're the bee's knees and you're doing super well. And you're actually applying your learning, which means that it's even more important because you're putting stuff into use and practice. You're repeating those things all the time. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So my path with the Open University to start with was with sort of natural science. My A levels were completely focused on biology, chemistry, and physics. I didn't do anything else. And when I first started my OU journey, I began with natural science and ended up deferring because it just wasn't something that really gripped me and that I really enjoyed. I sort of coasted myself through work until eventually I had a conversation with my student support team and changed my course to cybersecurity, which is what I'm studying now. I'm now about to go into my fourth year, but last year I had a fantastic interview with my local police force. I now work in intelligence in that force, doing my absolute dream job. And even though I've not finished my qualification, everything that I do and everything that I'd done up to there was such a focal point in my interview. They were really engaged, they were really interested in what I was studying, how I was studying, and I'd always been told to not talk about the OU by sort of my family. It was a case of you need to go to work, you need to focus on work, you don't need to let on too much that you're studying because your employer won't think that you can give you 110%. Well, that's certainly not true. That it was the total opposite. I mean, we spent a good proportion of my interview just discussing sort of my expectations, my study goals, where I want to be, why I was doing what I was doing. And it turned to such a positive for them to say, well, actually, if he can study, if he's got the motivation to go on his own 2 feet, go out there, do something part-time, which interests him and can work as well, it completely turned it around for me. And I think that being able to express that and the skills that the OU has taught me up to now in my interview certainly benefited me in getting my job and changing my career.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I mean, we all want to do well. I don't know anybody who doesn't come to the OU thinking, oh, I'm going to do my absolute best. And that first assignment is something we can feel very anxious about. But as you say, there's so much more there to be mindful of. And we've heard today students who are studying to do, teaching, etc., and lots of other things where those, applications could be really important as you're going along the path. It's really important to bear that in mind, other than just the grade, thinking about the skills you're learning, the way that your mind will think differently.
Most definitely. And I think, say, for example, I'm studying cybersecurity. I might be writing a report or having to complete a TMA, so sort of having to meet a certain word count and really critique and analyze specific areas of that industry. And you might be sat there sort of thinking, well, why on earth am I writing a report when this specific qualification isn't about writing? And it is almost a contradiction of terms, but really it's building up so many skills that are beneficial for employers, beneficial in just wider society in general. Being able to look analytically at specific areas throughout my studies is something that I now need to do day to day in employment, and that's something from me studying with the OU that I was able to demonstrate that's helped me succeeding in getting my job. So there's so much that can be taken away. It isn't just about the degree at the end, it's about everything that contributes towards along the way, and all of those skills that you may either not have or may be sort of a slightly weaker area for you, that you can really develop and work with your tutors and work with other students to refine, that will just help you however you want to take it going forward, whether that's in personal life, work life, or further academic life.
Oh, Paulina says, Pierce is an inspiration. Laura says she's so glad you got your dream job. Leanne says, congratulations to Pierce. And Harrod says, so proud of you, Pierce. So much love in there. And you're only halfway through your OU journey, Pierce, but it's absolutely fantastic that you've achieved so much so far, and everyone else can do it also. My dogs are fast asleep as well, but I hope there's no sort of background noise. If it is, it's just sort of chaos in the house as the postman sort of lurks in the background. Heidi, let me come to you, because your journey, as I say, was quite different to Pierce's. Do you remember sort of having clear expectations of yourself and thinking about grades and stuff when you started? Because you've also, like Pierce, sort of been able to use your OU learning to really support your own personal interests.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was when I first started, I purposefully didn't set myself huge goals to achieve. It was far more for me about having left school with no formal qualifications. Can I do this qualification? I'm sure it's in me, and the Open University has let me come in and have a go. So I was really lucky that I actually chose French as my first module, level 1. I didn't have an idea of doing a degree or anything. It was just a course to see whether or not I could study. I was working full time. I sat down, did the first 1 or 2 TMAs, and they brought such huge confidence in me. And as people have been saying earlier, you understand little at the beginning, but the more you do, the more you understand, and you realize, actually, I can do this. You get your feedback from your tutors on your first couple of TMAs, and the confidence it gave me to continue and to keep going was incredible. One of the TMAs wasn't particularly good, but the feedback came back and it really enabled me to understand what I'd done wrong and move forward. And as you said, Karen, with the level 1 courses, the grading, the scores of your TMAs are not as important at that level as they are at levels 2 and levels 3 if you're looking to get a particular level of degree. So there was no pressure on me apart from any pressure that I was putting on myself. So I was able to work through the feedback I was getting, talk to other students, which was fantastic, who were getting similar feedback to me, and work together with them collaboratively online through the OU's online systems to be able to develop and carry on. And the confidence was incredible. So you do start having all of these worries, but very quickly I found that the Open University support systems really helped me and understand what I could achieve. And I went on to get a degree in the end. So it was incredible. And I'm incredibly proud of it.
And so you should be, absolutely, because I think, it's getting that degree that matters. I bet you can't remember what your first TMA scores were now, Heidi, but I bet
No.
you they were very, very important that next day that you got them back.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the thing. It's developed. Look at where you've come from. If you do find studying hard at any time, and you just haven't got that motivation today or tomorrow, look at where you started. Look at those TMA scores from the beginning and think, wow, I did that. And look at me now. Look at what I've achieved recently. And you'll realize how far you've come. And sometimes that helps to spur you on when you need that confidence boost or that little boost of energy to get you to the next level.
Absolutely. And remember that your first TMA shouldn't be very brilliant. Otherwise, you're not going to be looking back at them and thinking, oh gosh, haven't I come very far? So it's important to learn. And we learn by making those mistakes. No one's ever learned to ride a bicycle, I think, without ever falling off. Let's take a quick trip to HJ and see. The chat is so busy. Are people sharing experiences, HJ, of how they're feeling about their studies and what their expectations are of themselves?
Yeah, I know a lot of us are very nervous, which is always natural. And I always say that if we're nervous about something, it's probably because we care about doing well, which I think is a good mindset to have. I know a lot of us are a bit overwhelmed with everything it seems that we've got to do to set ourselves up. But the good thing is we do have that session later today from 2 till 3, where we'll show you a lot of the resources available at the OU and the support available as well. And the main thing to remember is that while you're starting out, it's like starting a new job. You may know a bit about it, but it takes some time to find your way. And that's what level 1 is when you're starting out, to help you find your way, to help you get set up and used to studying as well. And a lot of people are recommending, as well as we were speaking about earlier, to let your tutor know about your circumstances, because it may affect the advice they give you, or it may be something that they'll keep in consideration for the future. So I know when we're starting out, we receive emails from our fantastic tutors, and it's always good just to email them back to introduce them yourself, let them know maybe why you're studying, and maybe a bit about your current circumstances, if you're working, if you've got children, things like that as well. But there's loads going on in the chat, and as we said earlier, if there is anything that we miss, just email us, studenthub@open.ac.uk, and we'd love to get back to you. And I know Tala and everyone else helping me in the chat as well is doing a fantastic job of sharing tips and advice. And if there's any links that we've shared today, they'll also be on the session page. So don't worry about scrambling to save them now. I'll put the link in the chat at the end of the session where you can find everything all together to go through at your own time.
Brilliant. And remember that pin button if you'd like to see something in the chat that you want to look back at a little bit earlier. That's on the top of the chat box. And also don't forget to let us know where you are on our lovely colourful map that is growing so much. Let's just take a look to see how it's looking right now. Heaps of people out there all over the world. This is just showing the UK, but I know we've got people from everywhere. So that's just absolutely wonderful. Okay, let's end today by talking a little bit about the right thing. One of the things about the Open University is that you might have found your assignments already. Don't worry if you haven't. It's very, very, very early days. But when you look at your module website, you'll see that there are lots of tabs there. And we'll be talking a little bit about this later in today's session. But very often we get a question or several questions for our assignment. And students can often think, well, what is the right answer? And am I doing the right thing? And we've already mentioned in terms of some assignments that we get back with lots of feedback where we may not have got the grades we wanted, but actually those things had the most impact on our learning. So let's have a think about doing the right thing. Liz, how does the sort of university view, I guess, what students deliver in terms of some of these questions? And perhaps you can talk a little bit about the notion of, that there's never one universal right answer, except in mathematics sometimes.
So, I'm not going to speak for maths,
No.
but yes, there are there are lots of different ways of getting to an answer, for one thing, and there's never, I don't think ever really one very, very specific answer to an assignment. The yes/no questions, obviously, you're either right or wrong. But I think the important thing to remember is that you answer the question, and you answer the question that's set and not the one you'd quite like it to be. So I think that's a big risk, because I've done that myself and deliberately twisted it, thinking I don't really like that question, I'm going to answer a different one. That's not going to get you full marks, I'm afraid. But provided that you're showing that you're attempting to answer the question that's been set, and you're showing that you're thinking around how to formulate that response and how to create the answer or come to the answer, that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for the one best way. I always think, I mean, Pierce probably knows this. I did a little bit of computing science, but it was such a very, very long time ago that it's almost like I don't know, using an abacus when I was doing it, but I remember doing computing science, and I remember realizing in programming modules that there's not necessarily just one way to write a program to deliver something. There can be different ways of doing it, and so long as it delivers the result that you want, what's wrong with that solution? So there might be better solutions. So I think don't get fixated on, is there a right answer and how do I get that right answer? But think about working towards the response, how you think about the problem that's been set for you or the question that you're trying to answer, and reflect that in the approach that you take. That's the kind of thing that we're looking for, because this is about assessment is about learning. It's not a barrier to be jumped over, a hoop to be jumped through necessarily. Yes, it will give you a mark, and yes, it could contribute to your final degree classification, but actually its purpose is to help you learn, to make what you've learned come real, in the sense that you're able to apply it to a particular situation or circumstance or question or whatever. So I guess my response is, don't get hung up on the right answer. But I just wanted to counter what you said earlier, Karen. I wouldn't encourage people to do very badly on their very first TMA just so that they can see how far they've got later on in their learning career.
It's probably not the best tactical decision. I think my point was that you don't have to be perfect.
No, exactly. So, but yeah, I think it's, don't get too hung up on it. And the second point I'd like to make is, and I think Heidi made this point as well, really, learn from the feedback. So the feedback is there to help you to develop as a learner. And the intention is that we call it, rather than feedback, feed forward, because it's about feeding into your next piece of work and helping you to develop your thinking for that. So use what the tutor has told you to help you in your next assignment and the one after that, and really think about it as a learning experience rather than I've got to get the right answer. I mean, if it's for some questions there is only a right answer. Or I was going to say, I was trying to think of one then, what's the capital of France? Well, I hope people would say Paris, hopefully. But generally we don't set those kind of questions. So so yeah.
No, absolutely. I've seen very creative answers, in particularly in the social sciences and psychology and those sorts of areas where they're narrative, I guess, answers like essays, etc. And so that's why we often don't give these exemplar answers, because there sometimes isn't one right way of doing it. It's about being creative, about answering that question, as you say, Liz, and really thinking, what am I here to do? What resources do I need to do? But we'll be covering a lot of that later. We've got a session about developing your academic career and being a confident learner, and all of this is about working with feedback. So that's later this week, so make sure you stay tuned to those particular episodes on Wednesday and Thursday from 11 till 12 and come along to those. Heidi, just before we end, I just wanted to ask you, you were very, very good at not letting other people's goals and ambitions stray you from what you wanted to do in terms of your own grades, because you were very much doing this for you. How did you focus singularly on what you wanted to achieve and not get swayed by other people's expectations of themselves?
It was a little bit difficult, but ultimately it's keeping an eye on that goal, and also to reiterate a point I made earlier of looking back how far you've come. Be proud of what you've achieved, and that was, don't compare yourself to others. It's the right thing is what's right for you, and not what's right for the other students on your module, perhaps. So just remember that it's the key thing is, what are you doing this for, and keep that goal in mind. And for me, I didn't start off asking for a degree. I didn't think for a minute I'd go for a degree, but I just did module on top of module, built my confidence, and then the student guys were saying, oh, do you know what, if you add this module then you'll get half a degree, and if you add this module you and it just kept going like that until eventually I got my degree and I got the t-shirt.
You certainly did. And you didn't let other people who were studying a lot harder or a lot longer, change your views of what you wanted to do. You focused on that. And I think that that's a really important thing that I think many people could hopefully take away from your stories. You got there because you ran your own race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And remember to use the people around you as well. The people who live with you are really important in supporting you on your OU journey, either in terms of feeding you when you're spending hours studying, or just making sure that you've got a quiet space, or being someone that you can come back and sound off at if you need to. But somebody said at my graduation ceremony, there's only one thing harder than being an OU student, and that's living with an OU student. so
Yes.
thank you to everybody who supported me, and I guess anyone who's living with other people, recognize the support that they give you too, because it is really important that you collaborate with them to make sure that you achieve what you set out to achieve.
Absolutely. Well, we've had a few technical problems. I'm sorry. Some people have been being kicked out. The internet's up to its mischief again today, I think. But hopefully you can join us back today now, or even back later at 2:00 for our next session. We are going to just end on one quick tip. Now, Liz, you've given one, but you can have one more later. But P.S., I'm going to ask you first, what tip would you give our other students? What was something that you wish somebody had told you on day one when you had started?
I would say for me, it's about making sure that there are other people out there. There are other students. You're not on your own. And as we've mentioned previously, distance learning is very different to being in a physical university. You're not surrounded by other people that are studying 24/7. It really is on your own merit to get out there and achieve your degree, but that does not mean that you are on your own. You know, I don't have social media, so I did find it difficult at first to try and engage with other people. But as I've continued in my studies, I've noted that each module has its own forum where you're able to go in and chat to other students. It even has a coffee bar where you can join just before your module starts to sort of meet people, talk about the up and coming, sort of module content, and really get to know who you're going to be going with on that journey, as well as things sort of like Discord, where you can have a conversation in a bit more of an informal environment. So for me, it would be someone turning around and saying, actually, there are other people that you can talk to, and even though they may be on the other side of the country to me, everybody is so friendly, so helpful, and if you can, really do put yourself out there to speak to other students who are in the same situation as you, because you really carry each other along as you go through. It's absolutely brilliant, the sort of camaraderie of it all.
Absolutely. And Heidi, very briefly, because we're so out of time now, what's something you wish someone had told you?
That it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And just keep on keeping on. You will get there, no matter how long it takes you.
Absolutely. Oh, that's very, very lovely, very poetic and brief. And Liz, the final word to you, even though you've already had one tip.
Okay, my final word, enjoy it. Just enjoy it, get the joy from it, and try and keep that joy in the learning, because that's what will carry you through.
Oh, absolutely. Very wise words indeed. Well, I hope that you have enjoyed today's session. I know that we've had lots and lots of lovely feedback. Liz, Pierce and Heidi, everyone says thank you so much for coming along and sharing such lovely stories and words of wisdom with people. I hope everyone's feeling a lot better at home today. As I said, we've got a session this afternoon at 2:00, which is about showing you round. I'll introduce you to some key systems at the university who are there to offer you support and show you some of the various things that are very important to know about. We then have sessions on Wednesday and Thursday about developing academic skills and becoming a confident learner. And then on Friday night, we have a really, really fantastic social. We'll be doing some dancing. We're going to have a quiz. And I've got loads and loads of food that we're going to talk to some colleagues in sports science about. And we're going to find out whether blueberries are better than chocolate. So do sign up for all of our events on the Student Hub Live website. You can also subscribe to our monthly newsletter, where we'll tell you regularly about the programme that we've got to support you in your studies, and anything else, do email studenthub@open.ac.uk. It's been an absolute delight talking with all of you today. I hope you've enjoyed getting to know each other and my fantastic guests. So thank you, Liz, Heidi and Pierce. Enjoy the rest of your day. HJ, thank you so much, and also all of our other colleagues in the chat. It's been really, really super. Right, we'll see you at our next Student Hub Live session very soon. Bye for now.